All right, a little hiccup there with the audience. I hope you guys are okay. Keep your clothes on, for crying out loud. It's getting a little rowdy here in the studio. Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell. Calm down, people. Calm down. I know it's our last segment here, and I know we get a little bit excited in the studio here. But, hey, keep it down. Keep it down. Man, this is a little crowd control here, Joe. You need to keep up with us. Woo! Woo! But being our last segment here, I want to thank you guys for listening to the show. Jump on over to our Facebook page, Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell. A lot of good stuff over there. We're pushing promos on there and our podcast pockets, what I'll call them. So we're just doing concentrated. They're not going to be 2 hours like this show here on iHeartRadio, but they're little canned production pieces that were popping up on our Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell Facebook page. And look out for that and more information there. And if you're in the Central Florida area looking to pick up your own or do your own podcast, we do have space here where you can rent out by the hour to do your own podcast. Do as much as you'd like to do, video, audio, post-production, or as little as just doing the audio. Bring your SD card and taking that anywhere you want to take it. So check us out on our website, contractortalkpodcast.com, or shoot us an email, info@contractortalkpodcast.com for that specifically if you want to rent out the room. Anyways, all right. So talking before the break, just going off on tangents about making it more of a political type of look with what we have yet here to see. I'm not a very political guy, so to speak, but with all of the crazy law changes, there's been 4 law changes just in the past, I'll say 2 years, 2021 with Senate Bill 76 to then all of the major reforms that we've had in insurance, property insurance specifically, the last one being December 16th on that special session, and then the final death nail to all types of insurance disputes, taking away all the privileges that the consumers had on finding an adequate attorney in case they do have that one type of loss. Now, if it's not a big enough gap, they're going to have a very difficult time finding somebody to pick up that claim. So we're talking about a $20,000 dispute. Most attorneys aren't going to pick that up now because of the amount of money they're going to have to spend on experts. What if they take us all the way to trial? Those types of things all now come into effect, where prior to, since 1897, all the way till just March 24th of this year, the consumer had rights in every portion of insurance, whether it be auto, whether it be property, medical, life insurance. There's a dispute against your insurance carrier. You call Hans Kennedy Morgan & Morgan, he'll get you your indemnity, the amount that they owed you in full, boom, and they get their payment separately from the insurance company because that's how the laws work, prevailing party attorney's fees. And so that right and privilege is for the consumer here. Not only did they get a short payment or a very long delay or an unfair dispute or a decline in their claim, well, now add insult to injury. Now you're going to have to pay your own way as you move along, all because the insurance lobby bought and paid for our governor to basically not only write the bill himself. We all know the bill came from the governor's office, went to the Senator Hudson, who actually filed the bill, and then he signed the bill right after that. It went through the fastest bill I've ever seen move through. It was just as fast as a special session, for crying out loud. It was the first bill that came out in regular session was House Bill 837. I forgot the Senate bill number. And that went through so fast that was, again, the death nail. It went through without a change, without a comma, without a period, without an extra word. It just went through. It was baked, what they call it, in to where there was no changes. There wasn't allowed to be any legislation happening. The legislators did not legislate this year. And it was absolute S show. I mean, it's just, I don't know how else to say, but except for my disgust in the folks that can be bought and paid for. What happened to the strong, independent people that can stand on their own and say, you know what? I don't need to be steered one way, steered, you can say that, one way or another, where the balance is so far off. Now the consumers don't have a leg to stand on. The insurance companies are crying poor mouth, but yet we're increasing their profits every single year. Universal sold $1 billion in premiums last year, being the number one insurer in the state of Florida, and they didn't have any problems, boasting $30 and $40 million quarterly gains. I mean, that's not a poor insurance issue here in the state of Florida. There's no crisis. The insurance companies were not losing money. Matter of fact, they're up 50% from the year prior to, and in excess of $40 billion in profits as a whole from the insurance companies. Like, insurance companies haven't been losing, as you saw in some of the exit interviews from the insurance companies. You saw the one that was in the paper from Sunshine Insurance that. Not only did the executive get bonused out along the way, so they all made money along the way, but, what we saw, they didn't have a lot of policies, but you'll see like the bailout that UPC took, right? UPC took 90,000 policies and any claims that it had open, pushes over to FIGA, and then sold all the interest to Slide. It's like that was a win-win situation. The state of Florida picks up your liabilities, yep. And then you get paid by Slide for those 90,000 policies. So bringing it back to when is it going to be fair in Florida? And we have a new Office of Insurance regulator ahead.
We do.
Still seem to be a douchebag.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I know Petronas said some harsh language regarding the farmers leaving the state. The new commissioner for OIR, whose last name escapes me, it's like Matthew
Yarlinsky or Yarkotsky or
something along those lines. And he was like, "Hey, we'd like to have a dialogue maybe and sit down and have a cup of tea or something." So he was very milk toasty about it. Petronas, I thought, had an odd right-wing reaction to something that's at least framed as business. But the OIR guy seemed much too like, hey, we'd like to know what's going on. I mean, I was still 100,000 policies. It's still a lot. I mean, we all know that Citizens just more recently has gone over 100,000 within the last 6 months, year, I think it is.
They, I think they're up to what, 1.6, 1.7 million total.
But they were around a million. In the big scheme of things, not that long ago. And I keep in mind, Florida's growing like a weed. I mean, there's so many people moving here. And people need coverage, so I think that's part of it. And Citizens is artificially inexpensive.
Right. Because the year before we passed a law that capped them at 15% over the next 5 years because they kept rising their rates for no reason. Mm-hmm. So we put a cap on the state of Florida and said you get no more than 11% the first year, no more than 12%, 13, 14, 15. Right. So we've capped Citizens. That's the only reason why they're so cheap.
I mean, but it's still a problem. It's an artificial market, and people then grab it. If someone said, hey, you can have Citizens at $2,500 or $3,000 or FedNat at 10, what do you want to do? Well, I'll take Citizens.
Right.
So that's been one of the issues we've seen. But, when Farmers goes out and take 100,000 policies, that's almost 10%. That's 8% of what Farmers had. Of what Citizens has. So it's still a substantial loss within the market and competition and all those other things. But like I said, with the government, the legislature being so beholden to really a guy who's really known as a bully. To the governor, it's made things hard to get things sorted out. You mentioned Andrew Gillum, who he ran against for that first term, and barely squeaked out of victory in that one. I always got a little worried when Gillum's campaign slogan was, and it really didn't make sense to me at the time, when it said "No blow, no hookers, just good government." I mean, that seemed to be. Perhaps that was a foreshadowing of something I just didn't see. I thought it was a little different.
And then he ends up on a hotel floor in Miami.
In South
that
Beach.
Was a typo. They weren't supposed to add the no.
Right.
Right.
It was supposed to be all.
Yeah.
Right.
Perhaps that would have been more of an indicator of where we were headed.
No kidding.
But I remember.
I mean, it's like, it's just good government. I mean, I was all about it, So, but torn reactions on that because it's like, man, would we be the laughing stock, with this guy in the helm of Florida? Oh. But in those same, we would have gotten our way, for the consumers, meaning that we would have much stricter laws for consumers than we would for insurance companies. That's for sure.
Well, so it would have been better for all consumers. None of the legislation that's passed in the last couple of years has really benefited insurance consumers whatsoever. In fact, it's been incredibly detrimental
So, and then quickly, Citizens now has 1.3 million policies as of June 30th. So, but yeah, ever increasing insurance company there. So, all right, thank you guys for joining us on the show. Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell. We'll catch up with you guys this Saturday or next Saturday and every Saturday here on iHeartRadio. See you guys later. See you.